"Security, get this man away from the entrance. If he wants money, tell him to find a shelter." The homeless veteran slowly lowered the resume he had been holding. "I didn't ask you for money, sir," he said. "I asked if your company was hiring." 38-year-old tech CEO Ethan Caldwell barely looked at him. He was already checking the time on his silver watch, unaware that before the night was over, the same man he had just humiliated would hold Ethan's reputation, his company, and $1 million in his hands. Cold November wind swept between the glass towers of downtown Seattle. Employees hurried through the revolving doors of Caldwell Dynamics, a cybersecurity company valued at nearly $800 million. Outside the building stood Marcus Reed, a 46-year-old black veteran with a weathered face, broad shoulders, and a short beard touched with gray. His olive green field jacket had faded with age, and the soles of his boots were separating at the heels. Everything he owned fit inside the military duffel bag resting beside him. But Marcus had not come to beg. The resume in his hand listed 12 years in the United States Army, including 2 deployments to Afghanistan. He had worked in communications security, supervised soldiers, and received a Bronze Star for pulling 2 injured men from a damaged vehicle. After leaving the Army, however, his life had unraveled quietly. His wife, Renee, died from ovarian cancer 2 years after his discharge. Medical expenses swallowed their savings. Then came insomnia, panic attacks, and a warehouse job he lost after missing too many shifts for treatment. Marcus had spent the previous 6 months moving between shelters, his truck, and the street. That morning, a veterans employment counselor had told him Caldwell Dynamics was hiring security technicians. Marcus had waited outside because the receptionist refused to accept walk-in applications. When Ethan Caldwell stepped from a black SUV, Marcus saw one final opportunity. Instead, Ethan looked at his worn clothes and decided he already knew his story. "You're blocking a private entrance," Ethan said sharply. "I worked in secure communications," Marcus replied, extending his resume again. "If someone could take a look. We receive applications online. I don't have regular access to a computer." "That isn't my problem." Marcus's fingers tightened around the paper. People moved around him without slowing down. A young employee glanced over, but quickly lowered her eyes when Ethan noticed. Marcus could endure hunger. He could endure sleeping beneath concrete overpasses. What still wounded him was being treated as if hardship had erased everything he had once been. "I served this country for 12 years, Marcus said quietly. "I'm only asking for the chance to work." Ethan finally faced him. Tall and clean-shaven, he wore a tailored navy overcoat over a tuxedo, his blonde hair carefully combed and his expression hard with impatience. "And I built this company without asking anyone for special treatment." Marcus stared at him. "Everyone gets help somewhere," he said. "Some people just become successful enough to forget it." The remark struck deeper than Ethan wanted to admit. "Remove him," he ordered. As the security guards approached, Marcus picked up his bag and walked away before they could touch him. He kept his back straight, even when several employees watched through the glass. If you believe dignity should never depend on a person's clothes or bank account, subscribe and stay with Marcus, because his next decision would reveal who the richest man on that sidewalk truly was. Inside the lobby, Ethan's executive assistant, 29-year-old Lena Park, hurried toward him. Her black hair was pinned neatly behind her head, but several loose strands framed her tense face. "The Harbor House check needs your signature," she said. "The gala committee is waiting." Harbor House was a non-profit developing transitional apartments for veterans. Ethan's company had pledged $1 million during that evening's fundraising gala, partly because the donation would help secure a major municipal cybersecurity contract. Lena handed him a cream-colored envelope. Ethan signed the check on top of his leather briefcase while speaking to 2 board members through his wireless earpiece. Then he slipped the envelope beneath a folder, or thought he did. At that moment, his chief financial officer called. A journalist had received evidence suggesting Caldwell Dynamics overstated the readiness of a new security platform. If the story broke before the contract announcement, investors could panic. Ethan snapped at Lena, rushed back toward the SUV, and shoved his briefcase inside. the folder caught against the door. Several documents slid onto the pavement. Lena gathered what she saw, but the cream envelope skidded beneath a metal bench. The SUV pulled away seconds later. Across the plaza, Marcus had stopped beneath an awning to protect his resume from the rain. When the wind lifted the envelope into the street, he noticed the Caldwell Dynamics emblem and stepped forward before a delivery van crushed it. He opened it, looking for a name or address. Then he saw the amount: $1 million. Marcus read the number twice. The check was payable to Harbor House Veterans Initiative, the same organization whose waiting list had rejected him 3 months earlier because every available bed was occupied. For a moment, the city noise seemed to disappear. Marcus had $11.43 in his pocket. He had not eaten since the previous afternoon. His storage unit payment was overdue, and inside it were the last photographs of Renee, his medals, and the folded American flag from her funeral. If he lost that unit, he would lose the final pieces of his old life. The check could not simply be deposited into his account, but Marcus knew desperate people who could connect him with someone willing to forge documents or sell access to the funds. Even a small portion could put him in an apartment. He sat on the bench with the envelope between his hands. Renee's voice returned to him from years earlier, when she had found him blaming himself for surviving an explosion that killed one of his closest friends. "Pain can take your home," she had told him. "It can take your plans. Don't let it take your name." A man passing nearby saw the check and slowed down. "You find that?" he asked. Marcus folded it immediately. "I know who it belongs to." He placed it inside his jacket. The money represented everything he needed, yet it was not his. To Marcus, that settled the question, even if it did not make the decision painless. By the time Ethan arrived at the Grand Meridian Hotel, more than 300 executives, donors, veterans, and city officials had filled its gold-lit ballroom. A massive screen displayed the Caldwell Dynamics logo beside architectural images of Harbor House. Ethan prepared to announce the donation while Lena opened the briefcase. Her face drained of color. "The check isn't here." Ethan stopped adjusting his cufflink. "What?" They searched every compartment. Lena called the driver. Security checked the vehicle. The signed check was gone. Ethan's crisis deepened when CFO Grant Mercer pulled him aside. At 52, Grant had been with the company since its first year. That evening, however, sweat gathered along his hairline. "The journalist has internal test reports," Grant whispered. "If the city learns our platform failed 2 penetration tests, the contract disappears." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Those tests were preliminary. The documents don't make that distinction. You told me the vulnerability had been corrected." Grant looked away. That brief hesitation revealed something Ethan had not expected. "You knew it hadn't been fixed," Ethan said. Grant admitted that his team had concealed the unresolved flaw to prevent a delayed launch. Ethan was furious, but he also understood the trap. He had created a company where bad news was punished and hesitation was treated as weakness. Grant had lied, yet Ethan's leadership had taught everyone around him to protect appearances at any cost. Now he had no donation check, no honest product announcement, and less than 20 minutes before taking the stage. Back at Caldwell Dynamics, Marcus entered the lobby and asked for Ethan. The security supervisor laughed. "You were told to leave. I found something that belongs to him. Give it to me." Marcus kept his hand inside his jacket. "I'll give it directly to Mr. Caldwell." The supervisor stepped forward. Marcus did not flinch. "I spent years protecting sensitive materials," he said. "I don't surrender them to someone whose authority I can't verify." Lena had given Marcus the gala's location during their brief conversation outside. She had slipped him a transit card as he walked away, apologizing for Ethan's behavior. Marcus used the card to reach the hotel. When he arrived at the Grand Meridian, hotel security refused to let him enter. His field jacket was damp, and his duffel bag drew suspicious looks from arriving guests. Then retired Army Colonel Samuel Hayes, chairman of Harbor House, crossed the lobby. The 70-year-old veteran noticed the unit insignia stitched above Marcus's pocket. "3rd Signal Brigade?" Samuel asked. Marcus nodded. "2nd Battalion." Samuel looked at Marcus more carefully. Name? Staff Sergeant Marcus Reed. Recognition slowly spread across Samuel's face. Reed from the Kandahar convoy. Marcus's expression changed. Yes, sir. Samuel knew the story. Marcus had remained inside a burning vehicle to recover encryption equipment and pull out 2 soldiers, preventing classified communications from falling into enemy hands. Samuel turned to security. He's with me. Minutes later, Ethan stood behind a curtain near the ballroom stage while board members demanded answers. Grant had disappeared after receiving a call from his attorney. The mayor's representative threatened to postpone the city contract, and Harbor House could not begin construction without confirmation of the donation. Then Marcus entered. Ethan's eyes widened. How did you get in here? Marcus glanced at the polished guests, then back at the man who had dismissed him as a beggar. I came to finish our conversation. This is not the time. It's exactly the time. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. If you're here to cause trouble, I'll have security. Marcus removed the cream envelope from his jacket. Every word died in Ethan's throat. Lena covered her mouth. Samuel watched silently. Marcus opened the envelope and held out the signed check. Your company dropped this outside. Ethan stared at the amount, then at Marcus's wet clothing. You found it? Under the bench where you told security to remove me. No one spoke. Ethan slowly accepted the envelope. His face reddened as he realized that the man he had judged as dishonest and burdensome had crossed the city to return more money than most people would earn in a lifetime. You could have kept it, Ethan said, barely above a whisper. No, Marcus replied. I could have stolen it. That isn't the same thing. The distinction landed like a verdict. Colonel Hayes asked Marcus where he was staying. Marcus hesitated before admitting that he had spent the previous night beneath the Alaskan Way Viaduct. Ethan looked down at the check. A man without a bed had protected Ethan's $1 million, while executives in expensive suits had concealed dangerous failures to protect their positions. The true crisis was no longer financial, it was personal. Ethan walked onto the stage carrying the envelope, but he abandoned the speech written for him. Murmurs spread when Marcus and Samuel followed. My company came here tonight prepared to celebrate its generosity, Ethan began. But something happened today that makes that word difficult for me to use. He saw board members signaling for him to follow the approved remarks. For once, he ignored them. Ethan told the room how he had treated Marcus. He did not soften the language or blame stress. I looked at his coat, his bag, and the place where he stood, Ethan said. Then I decided his worth before I knew his name. He lifted the check. Hours later, Marcus Reed returned our $1 million donation. He had every reason to resent me and every opportunity to walk away. Instead, he showed more integrity than I did. The ballroom became completely still. Ethan then addressed the product scandal before anyone else could expose it. He admitted that Caldwell Dynamics had unresolved security flaws and announced that the city launch would be postponed until independent testing confirmed the platform was safe. The company's stock would likely fall. The municipal contract might disappear. His board could remove him. But for the first time that evening, Ethan's voice sounded steady. A reputation built on hiding the truth deserves to collapse, he said. A company willing to face the truth still has a chance to rebuild. Then he turned to Marcus. I'm sorry. Not because you returned this check. I was wrong before I knew what kind of man you were. Marcus studied him for a long moment. An apology isn't proven by what you say to me, he replied. It's proven by how you treat the next person who can do nothing for you. Ethan nodded, accepting the weight of it. The donation was delivered that night. Ethan also made a separate personal contribution to complete Harbor House's first 40 apartments, but Marcus refused an envelope of cash. I need a door opened, he said, not my dignity purchased. So Ethan offered him an interview instead. Marcus completed an updated certification course, funded through the company's veterans program, and became a security operations specialist. Within 18 months, his calm leadership earned him a supervisory position. He helped build a hiring pathway for veterans, people leaving shelters, and qualified applicants excluded by gaps in employment. Caldwell Dynamics lost the city contract, and Ethan survived a bruising board investigation. Yet after independent testing and a complete leadership overhaul, the company recovered. More importantly, Ethan changed the way he entered his own building. He learned employees' names. He listened when they reported problems. And every Friday morning, he volunteered at Harbor House without photographers or press releases. Marcus moved into a modest apartment overlooking a neighborhood park. On the first night, he placed Renee's photograph beside his medals and sat quietly at the kitchen table. After months of sleeping in public places, the silence behind a locked door felt almost unbelievable. Years later, Ethan and Marcus remained friends, though Marcus never allowed him to become comfortable with the story. "You didn't save me," Marcus reminded him once as they served dinner at Harbor House. Ethan smiled. "I know. You saved me first." Marcus shook his head. "No, I returned a check. What you did after that was your decision." And that was the lesson Ethan carried for the rest of his life. Money could reveal what a person wanted, but power revealed who that person had chosen to become. If you had found that check after being publicly humiliated, would you have returned it? Share your honest answer and subscribe for more stories about dignity, justice, and second chances. Because a bank account can show what someone possesses, but only character shows what someone is truly worth.
This belongs to you, Ethan. It's time to face the truth.